Hello, good evening, and welcome to this New Year edition of Iron Port. It's the first Sunday of the year 2020, and of course the month January. And I'm sure that you had very good celebrations within this Yuletide. I'm sure that the discussions we had before the festive season that included, the sort of food to eat and how to be cautious, the food you buy, the items you buy, also helped you a lot, and that's what this program is about. We are here to ensure that you get the right information as far as trading is concerned, and particularly dealing with the port. Now, this week, we're going to take a critical look or stock of the year 2019 when it comes to the ports and maritime industry, and we'll be looking at every corner, the positives, the negatives, and look at how we can project also into the year 2020. And fortunately, we have the best man in the studio to do that job for us. The Director General, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, will be joining us. Mr. Luke, good to see you. The Director General, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. So we're fortunate to have the big man himself, dragged him into the studio. Good to see you, sir.
Yeah.
I don't know whether Merry Christmas, we have a belated one, or I can just say, Happy New Year.
It's the same season, so.
Okay.
So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas there. And I hope you enjoy the season as well.
Yeah, it was good. Good to always see the end of the year.
Yeah, I know you're always working, so I wonder how, you made time to chill around and had fun.
Of course, even if you sat home not working and resting, it's enough celebration.
Okay, so this program is proudly brought to you by the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, also the Ghana Revenue Authority, the GOIL Company Limited, Ghana Community Network Services, GCNet, West Blue Consulting, and we have quite a number of proud media partners. The Business and Financial Times is one of them. Also, the Ghana Web. If you read the Ghana Web, you'll virtually read everything that happens on this platform. The Business and Financial Times, the Thursday edition, covers most of the things that happen on this platform. Also, the Graphic Business Tuesday edition covers a lot of the things that happen on this platform. When we return from the break, we're taking stock of the year 2019 within the port and maritime industry, and we'll also be projecting into 2020 with the Director General, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. Stay with us.
Here's innovation from GOIL that takes you further. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect, and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and GOIL has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New GOIL Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. GOIL. Good energy.
Dear valued client, the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is now live to make it easy to track your consignment and know the estimated duty payable for both general goods and used vehicles. We are pleased to inform you that the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is available for download on Google Play Store for Android users and the App Store for Apple users. This is the best opportunity for all importers and exporters to know the duty payable on every good under transaction. You can reach the team for inquiries and support by calling +233 242 435 663. Send an email to support@ghanastradinghub.com. To remain updated, kindly follow progress on the following platforms: www.facebook.com/Ghana Trade Hub, www.twitter.com/Ghana Trade Hub, and ghlinkedin.com/in/Ghana Trade Hub. Importers and exporters can download the official Ghana Single Window mobile app, which allows you to track your consignment conveniently and also allows you to obtain your estimated duty for general goods and used vehicles. Please spread the message to everyone importing or exporting. The Ghana Trading Hub mobile app is now live. Download and never be cheated. This is powered by the Smart Ports Project under the auspices of the Government of Ghana and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Smart Port, improving Ghana's ease of doing business.
Ghana yenya ya sase o my kesia ye kan ye hobom ye adwumaden ye be ye kese pa ye to a ye tuatua ne da no ene ne ye sisi suku adan ne ayaresabia ade bi yi akwan am ye nya asetena pa ene ne papi eto bi te say withholding tax, income tax, excise tax stamp ene afoforo pi wo ho a ebia na wo mu sem bi safa de wo se wutia nkasa ho enu nti ne ye wo ho ma wo ne se ye beboa wo eto aketewa bia boa mesra wo boa ne empagya Ghana nsi ho ye to ye dachi.
Okay, welcome back to the program. It's Iron Port, and this week we're talking about the GPHA's view or perspective of the year 2019, taking stock of that particular year within the port and maritime industry. We'll also be projecting into the year 2020. Take a look at some of the things that have happened and probably try to predict how the year 2020 will be, and also see whether we will need some stuff from stakeholders in order to let all of that happen. And our guest in the studio already is the Director General, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. But already, a number of stakeholders within the industry have been thanking God for the year 2019, including the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority itself, as well as the Women in Shipping and Transport Association. They've all been thanking God. Let's go listen to them, and then when we come back, we'll take stock.
The Ghana chapter of the Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, WISTA Ghana, has held an end-of-year get-together to celebrate the year 2019 and appreciate the commitment and hard work of members towards the association.
The first one will be in May, which is the WISTA International mid-year meeting, and that one entails all the WISTA ESCO members coming to Ghana with WISTA International members joining, so it's a global affair. After that, we have our AGM in September.
The president of WISTA Ghana, Jimlat Jawula Mahama, revealed that the outfit will continue to champion the goals of increased women participation in the industry.
The staff and management of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority have held their annual Thanksgiving service to appreciate the goodness of the Lord for a successful 2019. The workers of GPHA shared the moment of worship and thanksgiving with other stakeholder organizations who have collaborated consistently with the Port Authority in the day-to-day activities within Ghana's port and maritime industry. Led by the GPHA choir, the group sang and danced away their gratitude in hymns and songs of praises. The director of Tema Port, Sandra Opoku, expressed special gratitude to the hard-working staff of GPHA, who, according to her, had worked tirelessly towards the growth of the company despite challenging periods within the year 2019.
In this time of Thanksgiving, we also want to express our appreciation to all our staff whose silent efforts have contributed to our success as an organization.
The Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Michael Lugoje, acknowledged the efforts of the labor unions who have strived for the sustenance of the Port Authority over the past months. He revealed that in spite of challenges facing the entire industry globally, the year 2019 saw a growth of cargo throughput consistent with that of 2018.
The figures, of course, did not show that we are going to do better in terms of volume than 2018, but then we'll do just as good as we did in 2018, and I think that is good cause for celebration, because in the course of the year, the industry itself, globally and in Ghana, has had various challenges.
Apostle Eric Nyameche, chairman of the Pentecost Church of Ghana, encouraged the staff members to commit their ways to God to achieve success throughout the new year 2020.
I don't know what you are going through, but I want to encourage you to open your mouth and to say, Father, I thank you. Put yesterday behind. Let us move on into 2020. God is out there waiting for us.
In a related development, the staff and management of the Port of Takoradi have held a Thanksgiving service to appreciate the goodness of God over the year 2019 and usher in a prospective year in 2020. Captain Ebenezer Feidzi, the director of Takoradi Port, praised the efforts of management and staff for sailing through a difficult year successfully and envisaged a better 2020.
We're not that we expected this year, but we're able to sail through together with the staff and with the support of God. We know that we will go through 2022.
He revealed, however, that collaborations between the Port Authority and its stakeholders will be strengthened to improve port efficiency.
Our stakeholders, we are instituting a monthly stakeholders meeting with the Director of Port, and we'll start that next week.
Vice President of the Apostolic Church Ghana, Apostle Dr. Frederick Ajiman, in his sermon emphasized the importance of loyalty to service and a positive attitude towards work to the socio-economic growth of the country.
God pays attention to whatever we do, and God is the rewarder. If you do it well, the good Lord will reward you.
The annual Thanksgiving service was also used to reward the efforts of some outstanding workers of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. This included Best Worker Awards from each department of the authority, as well as overall awards for Tema Port and Headquarters, respectively. Some notable names were Edward Johnson and Josephine Ankra, who were Best Senior Staff Workers for 2016, Tema Port and Headquarters, respectively. Eric Eje Ablo and Mark Ayibu Akugri were Best Junior Staff Workers for 2016, Tema Port and Headquarters, respectively. Rita Esel and Francis Mafo were awarded Best Senior Staff Workers for 2017, Tema Port and Headquarters, respectively. Eric Odro and Frederick Che were awarded Best Junior Staff Workers for 2017, Tema Port and Headquarters, respectively. The General Manager Administration of the Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, Alec Opong, expressed that the awards program is intended to celebrate staff for their passion and unflinching commitment to the work of the authority, and urged other staff to emulate such enduring efforts.
The authority is proud to have served for many years, upwarding dedication, commitment, and loyalty. And because of that, the authority has earned much respect that we are enjoying today.
The staff union executives called on all workers to gear up massively for the year ahead, as GPHA is about to experience a significant growth.
Take the bull by the horn, because that's the time we need more. Because what we are yearning for, we have gotten it, and all eyes will be watching. Therefore, every worker should be part of everything that will go on, so that we can move GPHA on and secure our job.
Okay, so looks like lots of praises to the Almighty God for that year 2019, and dedicated workers who have dedicated their lives to serve country and serve their organization also getting rewarded. Once again, in the studio is the Director General Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, Mr. Michael Lubuje. DG, good to have you once again. Looks like you have strong team of workers who are working, committed and working for the organization. And I see you rewarding them.
Certainly, I mean, we do put our hearts for the staff of Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Tema Takoradi Headquarters. I think the employees are the prime asset of the authority, and we appreciate their contribution over the years, including just this ensuing year of 2019. So we salute them. We salute every single worker, because all workers contributed towards the success of the authority. Those that were singled out for awards just happened to be the first. Otherwise, everybody else contributed to the success.
Yeah, obviously you can't reward all of them. But it looks like you also have a very large number of workers. A lot of people want to, we have heard it time and again, that people, almost everybody wants to work, and people who are interested in working in the civil service want to work at the Port and Harbours Authority. What's the staff strength, for instance, that you have if you put Takoradi and Tema together?
Well, if you put Takoradi and Tema together, We are talking about the total staff, excluding national service, of about 3,500.
Wow, 3,500
yes.
workers.
Yeah. If you
wow.
add national service, then we are inching towards 4,000.
Interesting. That's quite large.
Yes. So the Port Authority is
employing quite.
Is the biggest in the maritime sector in Ghana. We are the biggest employer.
I see.
Direct, even the indirect too. We even become, we'll be beating quite a lot of organizations.
Yeah. And as we talk about workers and employees, and also thanking God, I'm sure that you, for instance, will be one of those who would sit back and reflect a lot, because I think it's just exactly a year ago that you lost one of your dedicated staff, Mrs. Josephine Asante, and she was one of your best managers, I think.
Certainly, it remains one of the most regrettable experiences we've had as a port authority. I think I could say even the history of GPHA.
I see.
The little I can remember and listening to those who have been there years, decades and decades back, we've never had this situation where one of us got murdered the way Mrs. Josephine Asante was murdered. Unfortunately, till date, the police is still working, trying to help find the culprit and apprehend the person. Investigations are still ongoing. And we know what that means to the family of Mrs. Josephine Asante. So as a port authority, we are also part of the family. But if you go into her nuclear family, all we can say as a port authority is say that we are still together in this whole loss. We regret it together, and we are praying hard and cooperating fully with the security, the police, to be able to apprehend whoever the culprit is.
But what information are you picking from the police service? Because it's been 1 year. And for 1 year, a lot of people can't comprehend this, because, I mean, this is something that shocked the entire country, and people expected some expedition in terms of how they deliver their services and all of that. What's happening?
Well, you know, we are not experts in policing and investigation. And the police are the experts. They know their work, they know the procedure, they know how long it's supposed to take them. They themselves are not excited about the time it has taken. They expected to have been able to produce results much earlier than now. But from time to time, at least they continue to give us hope.
Okay.
That there is hope. They are getting some leads here and there.
Okay.
And we are all praying and encouraging them to accelerate it, and want to pray that as soon as possible in the course of this 2020, we'll get the good luck of at least getting the police bringing us results. Yes.
Okay. And at some point, I recall that you even offered a bounty of about 50,000. Is that still pending for anyone who finds a culprit?
Yes, the bounty remains valid. The bounty remains valid, and I'll call on every person who can help the police and GPHA to at least apprehend the perpetrator of that heinous crime. GPHA would gladly make available the bounty.
Okay. And unfortunately, again, in the same year, and this one towards the last year, you lost another giant within that industry, Castro, the latter part of the year.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so 2019 actually, those are January and also towards the end of the year. Very unfortunate incidents that have happened. And so the whole GPHA and the families of these two managers remain mourning.
Yeah.
But trusting that God knows very well why he chose to call them back in 2019. And we believe he called them back for a good reason. We continue to pray that wherever they are, they will also be praying for their homes, praying for GPHA where they've worked, that will continue to at least progress and remember them with all the positive memories.
Yeah. Yeah, but life still goes on, and putting those sad memories, sad events and all of that behind us and looking into the future. It also appears to me that there's a lot to thank God for, because looking at the video of your staff and everybody dancing and praising God for the year 2019, it appears there's a lot to also thank God for, isn't there?
Definitely. I think whether we like it or not, once we remain alive, and healthy throughout the year. I mean, that alone is sufficient.
Yeah.
You heard the apostle in Tema when he was saying that, look, the fact that you have hands, you have arms, you have legs, you can talk, you can eat food, right? That alone is sufficient for you to be thankful to the Almighty God. But as a port authority, the fact that every single employee got the opportunity to complete the year, earning their salary normally every month without having to have salaries deferred, without having to lose jobs, I think that alone is also sufficient.
Yeah.
But when you then even move into even the business for which we are employed, I think the year 2019 hasn't also been bad at all.
Okay.
We've had the economy of Ghana that is booming, and therefore import-exports at least have flown through our ports as expected. And we've done everything possible to make sure we handle the ships as efficiently as possible, we handle the cargoes as efficiently as possible. And of course, we also saw, the year also saw the opening of our flagship Terminal 3, Container Terminal 3, which is in West Africa. We are #1 now in terms of container infrastructure.
I see.
Infrastructure.
#1?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have, in West Africa, we don't have any port that has that brand new terminal open with that kind of capacity that we have.
We thought we heard about Lomé having some
yeah, what makes
Lomé
not the appropriate entity to compare with Tema is that Lomé's terminal is owned by a single shipping line, which is MSC. And they have that purposely just to deal with their line, their ships and cargoes meant for the sub-region. But we have a terminal that is not owned by any shipping line. It's owned by investors, a group of investors that are into terminal operations. So that terminal is available to every shipping line that has business to bring. If you compare it on that level, for now we are #1. Other ports are making an effort to have similar facilities, but they haven't arrived yet. So we are #1.
Okay.
And of course, we also happen to have received the first 13,000 TEU vessel into that container ship into that facility. And I think we saw a news item showing that we were even first to receive that before Miami in the USA.
I see.
So we are proud to compare ourselves to
with the port of Miami.
Yeah. So,
I see. Yeah. And that was a very big vessel.
Very big. 13,000 TEUs is big. This right from Europe, the first point of call is the port of Tema.
Interesting.
Before any other destination. So it's unique for us. And the fact that we had the facilities to be able to accommodate such a huge ship, and then we had all the necessary marine expertise and equipment to be able to move that huge ship into port and move it out when it finished operations. That alone is good cause for us to be proud and be happy. Yeah.
So you are saying that in terms of that kind of container facility, ours is Ghana's is the biggest and the best so far.
Yeah, in West, I think even in West and Central Africa, actually.
Okay.
For now.
Is that the only? What other highlights would you say we experienced in the year 2019?
Well,
apart from the opening of the MPS Terminal 3.
Good. The opening of the MPS Terminal 3 is a major highlight. The other ones we will talk about are not necessarily physical in terms of infrastructure, but also government's deliberate policy on the reduction of the the benchmark values for customs duties. That was also a unique opportunity within the port sector, because the expectation is that at least importers would then find it more affordable to import. We expected it to generate, at least to encourage importers and traders to realize that they can now import at a relatively cheaper cost than they used to. So as ports, we were excited to have that experience. Apart from that, 2019, these two major ones, I think we, as a port authority, also have taken delivery of one of our tugboats, the tugboats that were procured purposely to deal with the bigger ships that come into our port. There were 3 of them we procured. We got 1 of them delivered before the year ended, which is also significant for us. It means we have the capacity to be able to handle any ship, the biggest today around the world. When it comes to Tema Port, we should be able to move it in and out of the port.
I see.
Generally, of course, we've also been having some, the year started with employees a bit apprehensive about MPS Terminal 3 and rumors about likely job losses and what solutions were possible. We had, before the year ended, we got the opportunity to get all the MPS parties to agree that at least there will be an understanding for some volume of container trade to still remain with the Port Authority. And that is sufficient assurance that no employee will lose a job from GPHA. So those are generally what the highlights of 2019 will be, for which we should celebrate.
Okay. And to what extent do all of these that you have mentioned also trickle down to the performance of the port in terms of the cargo that you received, the traffic that you generated, and all of that?
Well, certainly the year has ended with the two ports also recording some increases in cargo throughput, total cargo throughput. Tema, of course, we haven't had December yet, so we are looking at January to November.
Yes.
And if looking at January to November figures, we are fortunate to see Tema Port total throughput growing by about 5% compared to 2018, and Takoradi even recording up to about 21% compared to 2018. So on a whole, it means all the positive developments within the economy itself and how it is growing, and also within the port sector in terms of facilities and our own productivity, it has translated into increased volumes, which is good for us as a port.
Okay. So you mentioned Takoradi growing by 21%. I think I heard it in the presentation by the director of Takoradi Port last week, that it grew by 21%, but largely as a result of export. Yeah. Is there difficulty with the other areas when it comes to that particular port? Growing other areas aside export in terms of...
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the Takoradi traditionally has been an export port of manganese, bauxite, cocoa, and others. But over time, the deliberate policy of the Port Authority is to try and get Takoradi ports to be attractive to imports, because the shipping line wouldn't want to come empty and load exports. They want to be able to load imports in and then exports out. But naturally, the port is just a channel through which trade into the economy passes in terms of goods. And so Takoradi's volumes have to reflect the economy of the western region of Ghana. But we did not, as a Port Authority, decide that, well, just wait for volumes to grow or the region to develop before you provide port infrastructure. So there's a lot of massive port expansion in the port of Takoradi. But then fortunately with the oil find, we saw Takoradi also then being able to generate its own critical mass of import cargo. Because a lot of businesses are now established within that region, the oil industry, project cargo and all that, going through Takoradi ports by way of import. So we are seeing at least some trickling growth of imports as well. But the port remains a dominant port for export cargo. So it's normal for us to see the volume growth reflecting from the export side more. But with the kind of expansion program and the various projects that are going on in Takoradi Port, gearing up to be able to make Takoradi Port attractive, not just for imports for the region alone, but the entire country. Because Takoradi, if you look at Takoradi to Kumasi and then Tema to Kumasi, I think it's just, Takoradi is even slightly shorter to Kumasi than Tema. And therefore, if Takoradi is well developed and the infrastructure is there, naturally,
they can attract
the port is better off, importers are better off using Takoradi to Kumasi.
Particularly for the up north,
exactly,
northern part of the country. Because there's been conception or misconception that, you know, you go to, for instance, Takotel or the Takoradi container terminal, and the volumes of containers that you see are not much. So that perception sort of trickles down as though not much is happening there. And people think that once they don't see as high volumes of containers there as they see in Tema, it means that not much is happening there. But you're saying, though, that it reflects in other areas. The export, for instance, is leading over there.
Certainly. Of course, if you compare Tema to in terms of exports, then you would say that maybe not much is happening in relative terms. So Takoradi, as far as its advantage in exports is concerned, it is still the leading export port in terms of volume. So, and we are seeing, fine, TAC Hotel is there for the container business. And we are expecting, with all the expansion program that is going on, and the kind of direction that the Western region is going and the oil industry's growth is also concerned, we are going to see in the coming years, Takoradi also becoming an alternative to, an alternative port for imports. It's going to give Tema a very good competition.
Yeah, and Tema, though, export, again, you've hinted on that export is not as much when it comes to Tema. I know that in the past you've made quite a number of efforts to encourage export generally in the country, and we've heard from GPHA not too long ago that export is growing. What measures is the Port Authority putting in place to encourage export growth, particularly through that port?
Well, essentially for as a Port Authority, our ways is to provide infrastructure, provide the necessary soft structure, the IT system to make sure clearance is as efficient as possible, provide all other cargo handling related services as efficiently as possible, and also ensure that the tariff is preferential, is favorable to exports. So if you take the GPHA tariff, you notice that certainly import tariffs are higher. Tariff items are much, much higher than the exports. That is mainly to try and make exports as competitive as possible on the world market, so that the port logistic leg of it will be as affordable as possible. So essentially that's what we are doing. But as also as a Port Authority, we are now trying to go beyond just providing the facility to also be interested in what is really happening at the industry point of view, where the cargo is being produced, who are the major exporters that are using our ports, and then at least engage them from time to time and see whether at least as part of their total cost, whether what the port is offering is sufficient, is contributing enough towards at least reducing their cost to make their exports as competitive as possible. So that is still on the table that we are looking at, to what extent we can support the export sector better than we are doing now.
And in terms of tariffs, when it comes to export, how competitive are the tariffs against maybe competing ports and all of that when it comes to export? Because I know that some time back you would increase tariff on the other bands, let's say imports and all of that, but you would not do that for export. How competitive are you making tariff when it comes to export?
Well, I think we don't have the most recent study on port tariffs in the South region, but the last two studies that were conducted for the export side, I think Ghana remained quite competitive compared to other sub-regions. Import side, of course, there are because different countries have different regimes. If you just take a country like Nigeria, where VAT is just 5%.
I see.
And we are 17.5%. Naturally, if you are looking at it, you can't compete along that. Of course, the other francophone countries that are our neighbors, they also have their VAT at 18%. And so on the import side, if you are looking at port costs in general, I mean we are not the cheapest, but we are also not the most expensive. But for the export side, the target is not necessarily how cheaply your neighbors are doing, but how dedicated and committed you are as a Port Authority to support your government's export drive and try and not just focus on making money out of export handling, but contributing to making Ghana's exports attractive on the world market.
Yeah. I'm happy you brought in that comparison with Nigeria and some of the other ports, because I know that last year thereabout, you were appointed the president of the Port Management Association for Western Central Africa, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean? Before I say congratulations.
No, I think the association is an association of port authorities, and the director generals meet in council once every year. And when they meet in council, just like you are looking at 2019 and then looking at 2020, the same thing they do in council. They look at the past year, how the association has performed, what is happening globally in the port sector, what are the learning lessons that port authorities are supposed to pick up and go back and try within their ports. And they do that, so every every 2 years, then they have to elect a new chairman or president of the council, and it's usually a chief executive officer that is elected. So it was Ghana's time to be elected chairman.
Okay.
And once it is your country's time to be elected chairman, whoever is the DG
becomes automatically the
president. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you had earlier been the Secretary General for that association, and now the president. Yeah. This interests me. Well, let me say big congratulations to you on that one. That it so happened that at the time, it was Ghana's turn to get a president. You were the Director General. But from that position, and having served on that secretariat as a Secretary General, give me an assessment of the stature of this country when it comes to the port and maritime industry compared to the others you have seen, the Lomé, the Lagos, the Abidjan, and all of that.
Well, port sector, positioning the port sector within the sub-region, take from Angola to Mauritania, I would say that Ghana ranks just among the top 3.
Top 3?
We are in the top 3. And when you take just container alone, yeah, we are in the top 3. Total volume of business, import, export through the countries, Nigeria is number 1, mainly because of their size.
The size,
the population.
Okay.
And if you are going to pick the ports as individual ports, take Lagos as a separate port, take Tinkan Island, take Abidjan, take Dakar. Of course, for container, Tema is leading. Tema comes first. And if you're also looking at port infrastructure, mainly in terms of container, because today container is the trend. So when you are comparing ports, you want to look at what is their container capacity.
Yeah.
Just as we mentioned earlier on, I mean, Ghana is leading today in West and Central Africa. Of course, I said Lomé is a difficult entity to compare because of the unique nature of that particular terminal, where it is there solely to serve MSC ships. It's not open to any other shipping line that calls. And so the comparison, and don't forget, much as MSC has got their terminal in Lomé, they were the first to bring a big ship to Tema Port, to our Terminal 3.
Why is that?
Yeah, because from the route from Northern Europe all the way to the sub-region, Tema is the first before Lomé. And the question is, it doesn't make economic sense for you to take that big ship
all the way to Lomé
first,
you could have,
and then discharge and then bring Ghana's cargo back. So you have to call here first.
Because initially, one of the concerns or the worry was that, Lomé has deeper draft, 60 meters and all of that, and MSC is handling it. So we're never going to get anything coming from MSC. And you're saying that even their first biggest vessel had to come to our port.
They had to call in Tema first before they moved on. And they discussed it, that it doesn't make economic sense for them to go all the way to Lomé and then offload that and get a smaller ship to bring back the Tema volumes. It doesn't make economic sense. And apart from that, I have always said it, because they've asked questions, that Lomé is better than Tema because, they have MSC. And I said, look, you see, when you look at the total trade volume of Togo, it's a smaller country compared to Ghana. The economy is much, much smaller compared to Ghana. Ghana's advantage is that the country's captive volume, the country's economy generates sufficient volumes. So when you build any big terminal, the terminal is able to be properly fed by the country's trade alone before you then make efforts to attract sub-regional trade, transit, transshipment, and the rest. But in smaller countries like Lomé, when you build such a huge infrastructure, the challenge is that you have to target to do more of sub-regional volume.
Yeah, because the
otherwise,
is small,
the country's own volume is not sufficient to make the terminal viable.
Okay.
So there's no need to even worry so much about competition with Lomé. They have the same thing now. The dynamics are not the same.
I see. Yeah. And let's educate us a little bit on the Lomé thing. So for other vessels that are using the Lomé port, for instance, and knowing that their terminal is owned by MSC, how's the picture like over there?
Well, you know, Lomé already has, Boloré already has a small container terminal in Lomé. So other shipping lines can call there. But the MAC, the idea of ownership of the MAC terminal is that for them to bring any other ship to that place, then it means that there's no MAC vessel coming. The priority is for MAC and MAC alone. So before they put you there, they have to be sure that you can come in and offload and leave before their next vessel. Otherwise, you have to queue because priority is for their vessel. So when you are calling there and you are a big ship, it means you are limited. You have to either queue or you should be light enough to go to the smaller terminal that is being run by the Boloré group. But we are fine.
We are fine. Because initially there was also that concern that, you know, ours is a consortium that involves the Port and Harbours Authority, Boloré as well, and then APMT. So then APMT you would want to associate to Maersk Line then.
Yes.
So people thought that, okay, so just like the Lomé one is MSC, ours is also going to be mainly Maersk Line kind of vessels, and that would be attracted there and all of that. Are we still able to attract other vessels to that terminal?
Of course, APMT and Maersk are not the same company. They have the same parent.
Yeah.
APMT, they are terminal operators. They have no business. They run separate accounts, separate management, everything.
Okay.
And they have no business with Maersk Line. Maersk Line is also a shipping line doing its business, and therefore there is no any kind of, you know, priority given to Maersk Line, Maersk vessels just because of that. No.
Okay.
And in the same way, you know, the Boloré, who are also part of the MPS, they also have some relationship with CMA CGM, that shipping line CMA, which used to be Delmas of the past. But they cannot give priority to CMA CGM vessels. MPS Terminal 3 is an independent multi-user terminal.
Okay.
You come based on your berthing window. You come and you tell us you are coming tomorrow, and you come in. The one who says he's coming after tomorrow comes and waits. We don't say, well, you know what, the guy coming after tomorrow is our brother or sister, so you wait for them to come in first.
Before you come. Okay, so no priority of that nature.
Not at all. It's open to everybody who has containers to come and, you know, load or unload in Tema Port.
Okay.
Can call in the terminal.
Now, the other thing is, as we assess the ports within the neighborhood and ourselves, and you mentioned Lomé, and I'm happy about that port, because there's this again misconception that the port of Lomé is very cheap than that of Ghana.
Okay.
Mainly because a lot of people think that there's this thing called free port that's been practiced by Lomé, and for which reason that makes that port cheaper. So you get a lot of people who say, okay, I wanted to buy a car from Ghana, it's too expensive, I'm going to Togo to buy it because Lomé port is free port. What's the difference? What actually is the free port? Is Lomé free?
Well, I think we've had countless occasions have to try and explain that, I mean, free port doesn't necessarily mean you can pass your goods through that port and pay nothing. Okay, let me just draw a parallel with free zones. You've heard about free zones?
Yeah.
Okay. If you go to Tema free zones, it doesn't mean everything there is free. It's just that there are certain preferences that you can get because you want to locate your factory within the free zone. And you know the condition. There are conditions for free zone. It means that at least only not more than 30% of your what you produce is allowed to be sold in Ghana. It means for you to go into a free zone establishment, you have the capacity to export up to 70% of what you produce to the outside world.
Yeah.
So that you can do more exports and bring more foreign currency to Ghana. Now, the free port concept is just about saying that within the port, within the inner perimeter of the port, is a free zone. What does that mean? It means that if any industry operator wants to locate their productive machinery within the port area, then they enjoy free zone advantages. That's what it means. So when you go into Lomé Port, unlike our case where within the port you see customs, and when they say the free means it's free of customs duties within
the port enclave.
So if you go to Lomé, for example, you see that within the city there are a lot of satellite car parks. Okay. That is where customs is.
I see.
You don't see a car park within the port where customs is there, checking whether you pay duty, then they check your papers for you to leave. Every car that is discharged within Lome drives out straight into any of the satellite car parks. That is where the car remains. It remains customs bonded, no duty paid, until it is leaving that particular terminal. When it's leaving the terminal, there are two things. If a Togolese goes into that terminal and buys that car, you buy from the car park operator. If you buy from that car park operator and you are a Togolese, which means you are going to use that car in Togo, you then have to pay your duty. You still pay duty, normal, before you exit. But if you buy that car, a Ghanaian, you go and buy that car from that terminal, it means that that car is in transit to Ghana.
Yeah.
So the customs people will be on that terminal, they will escort your car, cross the border in Aflawu, and hand you over to Ghana Customs.
To still go and pay your duty.
To pay your duty fully before you can drive it into town. So the free concept is not necessarily that, okay, you go in there, you can have everything free. No.
Okay, so if I get you right, in the case of Ghana, customs is present at the port.
Yeah, inside the port.
Where they collect their duty before you leave, you exit. Exactly. And that is if you're a Ghanaian. Exactly. But even in Ghana, even though customs is at the port, for the cars and cargo that is going to the transit countries of, say, Burkina, Mali, or Niger, they don't pay any duty.
No.
They go to their country and pay the duty on the cargo there.
Exactly.
It's the same happening in Togo. The Togo one, you are saying that the customs is not present in the port.
No.
They are outside.
They are outside, within the various terminals, outside in the city, within the city.
So if you're a Togolese, you still pay your duty on the car, but
still pay
to a customs who is outside the port.
That's right.
But if you're a Ghanaian who goes to buy it, you pay the duty to Ghana when you're escorted out.
Exactly.
I see.
You pay. You escort. In fact, when you buy that car, they will make sure all your papers are with the customs person.
So it's not as if that when you import through the port of Togo, that one, you won't pay any duty at all.
No, you pay.
As some people think it is.
You pay. You pay duty to Ghana still, unless you smuggle that car in
Interesting. Ghana. Because that's why a lot of people have that mindset that let me go and clear my goods out of Togo, because once I get it out of there, it's free.
I think the only part of it is that because first is a small port, the volume is not that big. Yeah. So you don't see the level of congestion and delays you might experience here. You don't see much of that there because things move much faster. So maybe the person who will help you do clearance in Lome Port, already because it's a small market, free forwarding might also be as expensive as it is here because, well, I don't know how much, so when I get you, I can give you a good price. So you might end up clearing your cargo through Lome Port slightly faster than you would have if it was in Tema. That is one. Two, you might get a freight forwarder who might charge you slightly less to do all the transit procedures and get your cargo crossed into Aflao. When you come into Aflao, the Ghanaian freight forwarders who are also at Aflao border, who will help you go through customs and everything, they will take. But many importers that have used Lome and the rest have indicated that even the freight forwarders in Aflao themselves, are not as expensive as those in Tema, mainly because of supply and demand.
Okay.
You don't have much there. So if you are there and so expensive, who comes to you? So you might end up saying that, well, I've cleared this car through Togo Port. And from the clearance to even paying customs duty at the border, it seemed to be slightly cheaper than if I had done so through Tema. And then the impression then is that, okay,
no, but to what extent that what's the difference? Really?
It's not that significant because you still drive. In fact, the distance you cover
you may still have
this place. There are
paid
so other
the same amount of money.
Yeah.
But again, also because there's absence of customs in the port, wouldn't that also be part of the reasons why the processes within the port there would be faster?
Certainly, because customs' job is just that. Listen, this cargo has arrived. It is destined to Terminal A or B outside the port area. So their interest is to see the cargo escorted quickly to the terminal it's going to be in until it is supposed to be cleared. So you don't see so much traffic within the port or all the delays that we experience. But in our case, the cargo stays there until the owner is ready to clear it. He comes, he goes through all the process and comes, maybe customs wants to do inspection, all that is within the port area. So that cannot be, that is the challenge we have compared to Lome.
In this year, in the 2019 as well, I noticed you made a lot of efforts in wooing the transit business. Quite much I saw you in Burkina Faso, also in Niger and all of that, engaging the transit community.
Yeah.
How is that going?
Well, it's going well. You know, the Ghana has been one of the very favorite corridors for the transit landlord countries, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. Of course, it's a competition. In fact, if there is true competition, then it's in transit trade.
Okay.
Because the three countries are sitting on about 5 corridors.
Okay.
They are sitting on what we call Benin, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal. So they have a choice.
Yeah.
Mali, for example, they have a choice to go. They can go. Senegal is the closest.
Yeah.
Abidjan is there, and they can come to Ghana. They can even, in fact, some even go all the way to Lomé. Burkina Faso is one of those that have the best advantages. They are sitting directly on Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, and Benin. So they have a choice. And where the customer has a choice, then you have a responsibility to make sure that among the wide choice that they have, you have unique values that will make them prefer you. And that puts all of us as ports in the sub-region really on our toes, trying to make sure that in a given time, we present ourselves as the best. Not just present as the best, and that when they come in, they experience the best quality that we offer. So we try to engage them from time to time. And of course, last year, we needed to reach out to them once again and be able to discuss quite a lot of things, exchange a lot. Though from the port, we get a lot of feedback on the type of service we provide, the quality of the service, the challenges they have. But sometimes if you meet them at their own doorsteps, on the ground where they have their factories, where they have their shop floors and everything, they are able to share better experience with you. It was a very informative mission we had in the 2 countries. They discussed issues concerning our roads, customs-related issues, police, too many police checkpoints on the road, quite a number of issues. But fortunately, we went with customs, we went with the police, we went with all stakeholders involved in the port sector. We picked all those issues back, and we've made a lot of effort. It's an ongoing effort to try and address all the challenges they have raised. The challenges are quite daunting. You can't necessarily address them in a day or 2, but once there's a conscious effort to address them, then we should be able to deal with them. They listed quite a number here.
Okay, but you admitted though that if you take Burkina, for instance, they have quite a range of choices of countries that they can use. And if you take Niger, for instance, they're even closer to Cotonou than they are to us. So to what are some of the competitive advantages that we have as a country to be able to woo these transit nations as against Abidjan, Lomé, and the rest, from where you sit?
Okay. Well, the advantages, Ghana, first and foremost, at least we don't talk on the basis of we ourselves as ports. We are looking at the infrastructure we have in place. We are looking at our tariffs. And then beyond that, we are looking at security along the Ghanaian corridor. Security. And fortunately, that is the feedback we get from the transit operators themselves, that they find Ghana as more peaceful compared to the other corridors. They don't have attacks along the corridors. They don't have that. They also find Ghana, despite the fact that we speak English and they are French speaking,
countries,
they still find Ghana as more friendly.
I see.
Yeah, more friendly compared to the other neighbors that are even Francophone. So despite the language difference, despite the currency difference, because they are spending CFA with the rest, but CD here, they still find Ghana as better than the rest. And of course, you see it in even the statistics where Burkina Faso, I mean, Ghana is in the second in terms of volume.
Ghana is the second country they deal with.
Yeah.
Who is first?
The first is Togo.
Okay. Yeah. What's the reason behind that?
Well, Ghana used to lead, actually. In fact, until the crisis in Cote d'Ivoire used to be the number 1, mainly because traditionally, Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso had a very, very, very close bilateral relationship. And in fact, the rail line, there's a rail line between Cote d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso. It was previously jointly managed. The two countries came together and formed a company that was managing that whole rail line until the concession into the Bolloré Group. So they had that traditional ties that they had, and because they have this bimodal facility, road and rail, naturally it gave them an advantage. But when the civil crisis came, they lost that number one position. It came to Ghana. Unfortunately, ours is just road. So naturally, when the situation stabilized and Lumi also picked up quite seriously in terms of the transit promotion, it has gradually moved to Lumi. But still, Ghana is quite close to, taking back that position. Okay. When we went around, we told them we needed to do everything possible to make sure that by the close of 2020, we should take back the first position as the preferred port to them for Burkina Faso.
So I'll be asking about what then we are going to do to be able to win that seat, the first port. But before then, you also mentioned earlier about tariff, and I know that for the economic operators, the friendliness they like, yes, the peacefulness they like, but the money as well for a businessman is key. So in terms of tariff, how competitive are we?
Well, tariff, the tariff side of it, for transit in particular, I think Ghana has remained one of the ports that have really provided preferential tariffs to transit. Okay. And each time there's any adjustment in tariff, we either leave transit untouched or just a marginal adjustment. Okay. The challenge we have in terms of costs, not necessarily the Port Authority's tariff, but the other tax-related issues that come on top. Generally, transit cargo services shouldn't have attracted VAT. Unfortunately, the GRA insists that VAT should be charged on the tariff for transit goods, and that is actually, and because our tariff is the VAT is 17.5%. That's quite significant. Yeah. That is a major complaint that the importers and exporters in these landlord countries have raised as a major issue.
But when I thought at some point, GRA said they were going to consider that. Yeah, they back about a year, 2 years ago.
They did indicate that they are willing to consider it. Unfortunately, maybe the process to get into that decision is very slow. We know that Togo, for example, they don't charge the VAT, and I think Benin as well. Okay. Cote d'Ivoire too. Because they feel that, they understand the concept and the principle that VAT should not be charged on those services.
But Ghana alone is charging.
So naturally, it makes us a bit more expensive. But fortunately, when we went on the rounds and we had the Assistant Commissioner of Customs, who happens to be
Mr. Bob Sanyala, is it?
That's right, in the office of the Commissioner for Customs. He's taken that up and discussing it. We are looking at it together to be able to get them to take that decision where they get it off. Of course, the other part is the currency issue, where we are doing CD, they are spending CFA. So most of the time, they need to go into a whole lot of conversion to be able to take care of drivers and trucks that have to ply the Ghanaian corridor. But on the whole, I think we are not doing badly.
Okay. Yeah. And there's also another, the mode of transportation, for instance, has also become an issue that worries the trade between the two, the transit nations and Ghana. Yeah. The Abidjan, for instance, has rail line. We don't have rail line. Is that a major problem for you?
Well, you won't call it a problem, but then you wish that we also had rail, because the fact that the importer-exporter has a choice in Cote d'Ivoire to use rail or road, it's a special advantage by itself. But for the unfortunate security issues in Cote d'Ivoire, I told you they were leading. Yeah. They were leading, and nobody ever succeeded in reducing their market share until the political crisis they suffered. So we believe that if we also have rail and road, given the kind of other advantages that we have as a corridor, certainly it will place us in a better state.
Yeah, and on the road to, one of the concerns I have heard from the transitors is the issue of harassment when they encounter the security agencies, either customs, immigration, or police in particular, and that there's constant attempt of extortion here and there. I don't know to what extent have you been able to engage the security forces to deal with this particular situation?
Yeah, certainly. I think that engagement has happened for a long time, in the last couple of years. And I think that also culminated in the Vice President's decision and directive that led to the reduction in checkpoints along the entire corridor, where customs checkpoints reduced to just about 3 or 4 from Accra all the way to Paga. Police checkpoints also reduced drastically. But the police, the permanent checkpoints are very few. But you know, along the corridor, because for security reasons, from time to time you have a lot of some kind of temporary checkpoints that you have. And ideally, what the police should have done was, on such checkpoints that are mainly for security, for road security reasons, they should have allowed free passage of transit trucks carrying transit goods. But naturally, once they are on the road to deal with security matters, the temptation, the tendency to stop every truck that comes and probably ask a few questions and all that comes in. But there's a lot of sensitization within the police itself, from their own hierarchy, talking to regional commanders and patrol teams along the road, that we have a responsibility to facilitate the passage of the movement of transit goods. And therefore, those trucks that come, once they have all their papers that are meant to, for them to be able to move across the border, your responsibility as a policeman is not to look at the papers covering the goods.
Yeah.
So leave that to the customs checkpoints to check. Just get them to pass as quickly as possible. But of course, you would appreciate that, you know, that's a big challenge from the reports we are getting from the truck drivers. But we are also engaging police. The police were with us when we went on the mission. And even whilst there were a number of some directives that they even issued to try and get the trucks to pass as smoothly as possible. So it's a going concern. You know, sensitization will continue. We'll continue to work with the police, with customs, with all other road safety related agencies to ensure that together we make Ghana's corridor more attractive than it is today.
Okay, so we'll have a breather quickly, and then quite a number of messages have come in for you. Viewers can also join the conversation via WhatsApp, or you can call after we return from the commercial break, and the numbers you can WhatsApp 055-901-9177, 055-901-9177, or you can phone in 020-5528-353, 020-552-8353 is a number that you can call when we return right after the break. And DG, quite a number of stories and issues also for you. For instance, positioning ourselves in the midst of this after continental free trade and all of that, right after the break.
Here's innovation from Goyle that takes you further. New Gold Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect, and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and Goyle has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. Goyle. Good energy.
Dear valued client, the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is now live to make it easy to track your consignment and know the estimated duty payable for both general goods and used vehicles. We are pleased to inform you that the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is available for download on Google Play Store for Android users and the App Store for Apple users. This is the best opportunity for all importers and exporters to know the duty payable on every good under transaction. You can reach the team for inquiries and support by calling +233 242 435 663. Send an email to support@ghanastradinghub.com. To remain updated, kindly follow progress on the following platforms: www.facebook.com/Ghana Trade Hub, www.twitter.com/Ghana Trade Hub, and ghlinkedin.com/in/Ghana Trade Hub. Importers and exporters can download the official Ghana single window mobile app, which allows you to track your consignment conveniently and also allows you to obtain your estimated duty for general goods and used vehicles. Please spread the message to everyone importing or exporting. The Ghana Trading Hub mobile app is now live. Download and never be cheated. This is powered by the Smart Ports Project under the auspices of the Government of Ghana and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Smart Port, improving Ghana's ease of doing business.
Ghana ye yenya ya sase o my kesia ye kan ye hobom ye adwumaden ye beye kese pa ye to a ye tuatua ne da no ene ne yedi sisi suku adan ne ayaresabia ade bi yi akwan am ye nya asetena pa ene ne papi eto obi te say withholding tax, income tax, excise tax stamp ene afoforo pi wo ho a ebia na wo mu sem bi safa de wo sawutia nkasa ho enu nti ne ye wo ho ma wo ne se ye beboa wo eto aketewa bia boa mesrawo boa ne peja Ghanans ho yentuo ye dachi.
To our staff, this year has been a bit challenging, but your tremendous efforts have made it possible to sail through the year. May this Christmas bring a lot of joy to you and your families. We hope to see a lot of commitment and motivation towards excellent service delivery in the coming year to reach new heights. To our cherished customers, your hard work and support helped us to grow and face the difficult times. We are all like one big family. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a successful New Year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy Shapo.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy hip, 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 hooray!
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year!
Happy Shabbat to you. Happy Shabbat to you.
Welcome to the program. It's powered by Ghana Revenue Authority, Goil Company Limited, Ghana Community Network Services, West Blue Consulting, and Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. My guest in the studio, Director General, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Mr. Michael Luguje. We've been taking a look at the port industry, the port and maritime industry within the year 2019, and also we're going to look at what the year 2020 holds for all of us. Didi, after the African Continental Trade Agreement, Secretariat or Area Secretariat is been brought to Ghana, and all of us are rejoicing. Would you be able to tell us how well our ports industry positioned for this? Because there's a lot of expectations, I guess you know that.
Yes, of course. For the ports, our ports we are positioning our ports for global trade. Trade coming from all the continents of the globe. And whilst we do that, we also are looking forward to getting more intra-African trade going maritime. Why is this so? Because essentially, we want to grow more trade within the African continent, we want the African countries to trade among themselves. And in so doing, the trade should grow so much so that it wouldn't just be crossing countries using the road mode, but also the water transportation mode. You know that globally, the focus is to try and do more of water transportation, which is supposed to be less of a pollutant compared to road transportation. So unfortunately today, within the African continent, intra-African trade, of course, statistics show clearly is less than 10% among us. We trade more with external continents than within ourselves.
Among ourselves.
And that is one of the cardinal reasons why the African Continental Free Trade Area has been declared. And once that happens, we're going to see a lot more of production, a lot more of production, changing locations. If you can, before this Continental Free Trade Area, you couldn't, if you were established within Togo, for example. Togo, though it's in ECOWAS, they belong to the Francophone group, which is called UEMOA. There are advantages between countries that are members of that community that Ghana doesn't enjoy. So it's not that easy for you to establish, a Ghanaian to establish a factory, or any industrialist to establish a factory in Togo and easily move into Ghana in and out and sell without all the challenges that have to do with customs, limitations, and taxes. But this project, the Continental Free Trade Area, is meant to open up the continent. In other words, it is like the same country, how you can produce in Tamale and sell in Kumasi or Accra without any hitch. What that means is that we are going to get not just Africa itself, Africans themselves, increasing production, but a lot of foreign firms that will now notice that it's better to come into Africa and establish in any part of the continent and then export within the same continent. So as ports, we are interested in volumes. Anything physical cargo that has to move. If it increases, it's to our advantage. So we are all
and if
excited.
It increases, we are positioned, well positioned.
We are well positioned. In fact, we are ahead of the
all the other countries.
Area.
Okay.
Yeah. Ready to take advantage of raw materials that will come through ports to feed industries, finished products that would go out, be exported through ports. We are ready for that. And of course, Ghana hosting the Secretariat is additional excitement.
I want to know about some of the other business units that you have within the port business, the Port Authority. I know that the International Maritime Authority, for instance, hospital is part of your businesses as well. Yeah. And then the shipyard. Is there any other that I'm not aware of?
Well, business units, we usually call them units, the ports. The ports are the units, Tema, Takoradi. We have KETA that has come up, and we are busy preparing to engage a consultant to conduct a full feasibility study
on KETA Port.
On KETA Port, we expect that by the third quarter of this year, that report, the consultant will have completed his work. He should be engaged by end of February to start that assignment. And when that comes, that will provide the blueprint on which KETA will be developed.
Third quarter of 2020.
Third quarter, close of third quarter, we should have that consultants, because we're asking whoever will win that contract to work faster than the ordinary have done, because the feasibility study normally should be between 9 months and 12 months. Yeah. We want this particular consultant to work faster than that, because we need results before the end of 2020, so that we have a clear mind by the time we start 2021 how we are going to be developing the Port of KETA. So that's a third unit that has come. We have, of course, the Maritime Hospital, International Maritime Hospital, which is, I would say, currently in the whole of Africa, Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority stands out as a port authority that has ventured into such huge investment into an international world-class hospital. We are happy about that. Of course, it is quite a huge investment, but the concept behind it, for it to operate as a separate SBU, which will run on its own with its management and be able to serve the health sector, is going to help us really position it in a better stead. Of course, the shipyard. The shipyard, actually, we can call it a unit of Ports Authority, because shipyard has been an independent body for quite a long time to come. We're only asked to support it whilst we look for a strategic investor. That was in 2016.
Yes, I thought the 2016 was handed to the Port Authority.
Yeah, well, not necessarily handed to the port. The port was just asked to support the shipyard, because it needed to be retooled, given some minimum tools to make that attractive. Because when you are selling anything, if you paint your house before you sell, you get better value than if you leave it rickety and you sell. So the idea was Port Authority should support the shipyard, give it a few tools that will get ships calling to get repaired. And once that is happening and you then put it out there looking for an investor, you get interested and serious strategic investors to come. That was the assignment given to Ports Authority somewhere third quarter of 2016. And then we started supporting the shipyard to an extent. Down the line, there's been a lot of effort with the help of the Ministry of Transport to work with the Ports Authority to find that investor. But we noticed it is taking a long time because I guess government doesn't want to make the same mistake that we made in the past with the Malaysians. We got Malaysians who come in as strategic investors. Unfortunately, they made no investment. They rather came and took advantage of existing opportunities that the shipyard was doing, made some money, and then left it in the worst state that it was given to them. So this time, there's a lot of care in trying to make sure that we get an investor that is really having the money and the expertise to come and put into that. And that unfortunately, we haven't been lucky. It has taken too long to find that investor.
But won't the Port Authority be able to take it up by itself? I mean, if you're able to, like you ably demonstrated, you have a building. If you're able to put a building in a very fine shape and all of that and maintain it to a certain extent, can't you hold it up and continue with it? Do you necessarily have to rent it out to somebody or sell it?
Well, I mean, it's a policy decision by government. If government decides to give that shipyard completely to the Port Authority, because we've put a lot of money into it in the past. Port Authority has been called upon to assist a number of facilities in the past, which we've done. So if we have the opportunity to take over the shipyard and then position it, I mean, we should be able to do that. But you see, there is also government's gradual policy direction towards ensuring that government agencies, stay away from commercial business as much as possible.
Even when it's capable?
The tendency is that remain as a regulator and provide the enabling environment for private sector to be able to provide the commercial service. So sometimes whilst you try to give that business to a public entity to do, you're also looking at that policy aspect where you want to, as much as possible, get government authorities to stay out of commercial business. So, but as we sit as GPHA today, if government decides that, look, we think that take over the shipyard completely as one of your units, run it fully as a business, and then get it serving the market. Because for us as a port authority, it's critical for you to have a shipyard next to your port. Before a ship decides that next year I'm going to go into repairs, they plan from the beginning of the year that maybe October, November, I'll be at a shipyard to be repaired. Now, if that is the decision, and the shipyard happens to be far away from the cargo destination, that particular shipping line will have to stay out of business for at least 2 months prior to the repairs, because they have to sail empty to that particular place or go to a nearer. They can carry cargo to the nearest port, discharge, and then go into shipyard. Now, the advantage we have is that if you have your shipyard next to your port working well, what it means is that shipping lines can plan that, look, I enter Tema Port, offload the cargo, and quickly go into dry dock for repairs. So I don't need to say, well, I can't take any business to Tema because there's no shipyard there. And I don't want to go there, offload cargo, and sail empty to a faraway shipyard. So any port that is close to a shipyard, there's a strategic advantage that you get in terms of attracting shipping lines, attracting business, and all that. So we are really concerned, and we will just continue to encourage our ministry to support us to really find a very, very committed strategic investor as early as possible.
Well, I will come to some of those issues again, but as I'm getting swamped by the messages, let me read some of them. This one from the former president of Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Joseph Agbaga, says, please ask the Director General of GPHA what GPHA is doing to stop GRA from charging VAT on services related to transit, because transit is an eventual export. If the principle that makes services on export VAT-free, it is imperative that services on transit should be treated same. And this is something you already mentioned, that it's a disadvantage to us.
Certainly. I mean, we have communicated with GRA severally. They have appreciated the principle and the need for them to revise that decision on charging VAT on transit cargo services. And it's just that, as you know, the process to be able to, they tell us that it's a regulation issue, and for you to revise it and be able to take that particular component segment of business out of the charging, it takes time, but they've appreciated it, and there's a lot of follow-up that the Port Authority is doing. Asking us what are we doing to stop GRA. GRA cannot be stopped like that.
The authority on their own.
Yeah, and apart from that, they are dealing with a sensitive subject.
Yeah.
Revenue for government.
Yeah.
I mean, government revenue is what keeps all of us, breathing. And so when one single city is going to be taken out, that will mean a lot of work to do, a lot of convincing, a lot of justification to make. And we are doing everything possible. We've presented all the facts to GRA. They have understood the principle, and they themselves are making some effort to go through the process that would lead to offering to take out transit from that.
Now, as you mentioned that, it brings me to something we learned from last week's episode when we had the Parliamentary Select Committee on Trade, Transport, and I was asking about most of the port community asking for one authority that will be able to steer affairs among the other authorities as well who are working in the port. And it came out from the Select Committee, the chair of the Select Committee on Transport, that Cabinet should be able to empower GPHA to do that and say that, look, this direction is not helping the port to grow, so can you work along this? You can, for instance, suggest to the GRA that, look, VAT on transit is not healthy for the port. You can suggest to another agency that so-and-so is not healthy for the port, and they should be able to agree and listen to you as a landlord. Do you think such authority is now needed for you to be able to take control, and whether you are also capable of taking control?
Well, you see, I think if the existing law, right, establishing GPHA, if every other agency is prepared to go by that legislation, we already have that mandate.
I see.
We have that mandate to be able to make sure that anybody that is operating within the port, that comes, no matter the authority you are coming to within the port area to operate, or the kind of activity you provide depends on the business that comes in and out of the port. You should listen to the Port Authority, listen to the advice of the Port Authority, the direction of the Port Authority, as long as it does not prevent you from discharging your statutory functions. But you see, we've also had situations where many of these government agencies have their own targets that are not flexible. You are expected to be able to go in there, make sure you generate some revenue.
Even when they don't conform to what the authority requires to ensure the business of port to go well.
Most of the time, the focus is more on the revenue you are supposed to generate than the fact that your effort to generate that revenue should not stifle the trade. Because the trade is what helps you to be able to generate the revenue. And that is a big challenge.
So it means
customs, the GRA, of course, customs revenues from the port is such a major source of government tax-related revenue that when the target is given to you and you are supposed to raise that revenue, everything is being done. And at that point, the pressure is on ensuring that you meet the target than looking at the trade side of it, especially when that's that component of facilitating the trade or keeping an eye on how much tons of cargo have come in, are they dropping or not, which trader is suffering, is not your core. When it's not your core, you tend to focus more on what is your core. Leave what is non-core to you, to whoever is in charge. And the tendency we've had is when you are preaching that side of it, that listen, whilst you are focusing here, let's see how together we are promoting the trade for it to grow.
That is not heeded because sometimes
it's not
you have
heeded. And then beyond that, you have other agencies that come in, Standards Authority and others that come. And we've also moved far into a situation by our very nature as developing nations where government is unable to generate revenue to subvent a lot of organizations. So now we've moved into a situation where a lot of state agencies that hitherto were not charging fees for their services are now compelled to come up with IGF, internally generated funds. Find your own money. Okay, with the services you are providing, charge the cargo owner a little to make sure you can run your business.
And that makes your port also
exactly. So that
expensive.
becomes a challenge. So then it's like, well, we are going to charge. Whether you tell us your port is not competitive or not, we have to survive. And we have a mandate from the state to generate funds internally. So definitely what the chairman of the Transport Select Committee is saying could help. If there is any additional empowerment of the Port Authority to make sure that no matter the mandate you have from the state to generate funds or to put any kind of checks within the trade route is concerned, you should do that, make sure it is in sync with the Port Authority so that you don't do that and end up stifling the trade or frustrating the trade. I think that can help.
Okay. Now, the numbers again, you can WhatsApp 055-901-9177. And I see a lot of you calling that number. Please do not call that line. Just WhatsApp on that one. 020-552-8353 is the number you can call, and it's on your screen. So this one came in. It says, "Good evening, Iron Port. I must commend the Iron Port team for a great work done in 2019 and continue to do this year, as well as the GPHA led by the Director General gracing the show today. However, I want to do from the director, I'm sure you want to say, I want to know from the Director General what plans are in place to revamp Ghana shipping yard and dock after I watched a documentary on the poor state and indebtedness of the shipping yard on TV3. Thank you, David from Asamankese." DG, maybe you may we'll keep that one, take about 5 of them, and then you can respond. "Good evening, Iron Port. Can you please ask DG what are his plans as part of projections for year 2020 to take absolute control of reefer containers in order to keep the GPHA reefer terminal in full operation from MPS? I ask this because if GPHA hesitate, the reefer terminal built not long ago will soon become a white elephant." A forwarder called Frimpong sent that one. This one says, "Good evening." Okay, just good evening. Excuse me. "May I know from the Director General why royalties have been increased at the port?" This is coming from one Edward. "My name is Francis from Kumasi. I enjoyed your discussion. I'm very interested in it. Thank you." No question, so that one we can skip. This one says, "Please, when is the construction of the Buankra Inland Port at the Akonsombo Port starting from Tete in Accra?" So Buankra is not in Akonsombo, Tete. It's actually around the Ashanti region, Buankra. That's where it's located, actually, not Akonsombo. This one says, you have a tall one. "Good evening, Sam. Kindly ask the DG why handling charges in Ghana is higher in the sub-region." This is coming from Kofi Ejapong in Tema. "The shipping line is passing G on port duties." I'm not sure. It's passing something on port duties, post-security charge to importers and exporters. What is he doing about it, since those charges are meant for the carriers or shipping lines and not importers and exporters? Thank you. The third one is, "MPS was directed not to charge partial on staffing transport. MPS is still charging us. What is the DG doing about it?" That came from Frank. So please ask, and this is Mr. Joseph Agbaga again, please ask what is GPHA doing? VAT, I've asked already, Mr. Agbaga. Of recent, there was an increase in GPHA tariff, and it takes important public and freight forwarders to call their attention to what GPHA admit that it was an error. Could that be a genuine error? Or if there was no uproar, it could have gone through. Only part of the fourth schedule was touched because those were the immediate ones, and nothing has been done to revamp to trump shipments. Cost have also risen sharply. I'm sure you want to say transshipment costs, Mr. Gwega. DG in a statement has just sided with government, that is GRA, linking VAT on services to transit as revenue to the state. Is that how you got it, Mr. Gwega? He says, if he agree in the principle that VAT is a consumption tax and the reason for exempt on export, then the levying of VAT on transit services is in the first place abnormality. Government is taking something that they shouldn't have, Mr. Agbega, again. So if you can take those ones and then we deal with the rest that are coming through again.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. The shipyard needs a minimum of $100 million to get it to the state. That's
$100 million.
Yeah, 100 million. And if there is anything immediately required, even to start, you should put not less than $40 to $50 million to get it the basic tools it needs to be able to repair ships and do fabrication of components and the rest. So that is why GPHA as a loan, even if government asks GPHA to take over that shipyard, will still need some partnership.
Okay.
We'll need partnership to be able to do. So the commitment is the government itself is committed, and GPHA is ready to partner to get the shipyard up and running. The reefer issue is also an issue that we are discussing with Customs, GRA. The reefer yard that GPHA invested in was the subject of a separate agreement with MPS that even when Terminal 3 opens and the terminal is supposed to handle all containers, reefers in particular
will not be touched.
Once they are discharged on Terminal 3, they should be transferred to the GPHA's reefer facility to be stored and delivered to their owners as and when they come to take them.
That was an agreement you had
separate
earlier
agreement
with
MPS. Unfortunately, by the time Terminal 3 was to open, there was this very, 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 very erroneous rumor around that created a lot of panic within the tax revenue generation sector that containers in the port, anytime they are getting out to any of the off-dock terminals, including the reefer yard, they get stolen. And they get stolen, and customs is not able to take the tax, the necessary import duty revenues. So there was a lot of concern that, okay, what can be done to prevent containers from even moving to any terminal without paying duty? Unfortunately, that rumors happened to have succeeded in convincing economic management team and customs themselves. They went and pushed it at the EMT level that it was important to look for ways of ensuring that duties are paid on every container that came into the port before it got out. And you know, the reefer yard is outside the Terminal 3. And so the reefers got caught up in that directive that the container, once it lands in Terminal 3, it should not exit unless it has paid, the owner has paid the requisite duties.
Interesting. And that rendered the earlier agreement useless then?
Yeah, in fact, it rendered it useless. We wrote to try to explain that reefer containers cannot and have never been the subject of any loss. But you know what it means. That's what I'm saying. Government revenue is sensitive. Once there is any form of rumor that there is some loss, whatever you do to block it is there. So EMT is not convinced that reefer containers are not stolen. And so they insisted that they should stay. And that because of that, GPHA's investment in the reefer terminal is virtually going to waste.
But yes, sorry.
We petitioned customs. Okay. They are considering exempting the reefers from that directive. So we hope that will happen very soon.
Because I was going to ask you that you keep saying that it's rumors. That means that there were no evidential proof of the fact that indeed those reefers were being missing in between that route from the terminals to that the yard.
Yeah, it's true.
There were evidences that indicated that indeed they were getting missing.
No. In fact, I think the only instance of a container being allegedly diverted was transit container that was being escorted from the main port to the transit yard. And they claimed the driver decided, instead of going, when he left the port, instead of going into the transit yard, he drove into town. Okay? But at the end of the day, they were apprehended anyway.
Yeah, but the issue of the transit, we often hear it.
Good. But the point is this. The challenge, which we try to explain, is that there cannot be a container getting missing from the port without customs knowing where it is or who took it away. Because customs is the last to release the container before the port can allow it container to get out of the port. A customs officer must authorize that. And where the container's destination, the terminal that the container is supposed to go to for duties to be paid, there's a customs officer there who must also confirm that this container that left port A, terminal A, it has arrived in terminal B. Okay. And at the time of leaving, there's a truck that is carrying that, there's a driver that is driving that truck. It's not possible for a container to get missing without a customs officer knowing where it went to. So therefore, if we needed to really prevent theft, we needed to ensure that we strengthen the corridor where the container is passing, and then also get customs to become extra responsible, so that you don't just somebody just doesn't load a truck and say, okay, start going without checking, to ensure you have full details about the truck, full details about the driver, and everything to make sure it
arrives at its destination and all that.
But so unfortunately, we didn't get that going.
You have the other
royalties. Yes, we've revised royalties.
Before you, sorry, to rudely interrupt. George has been on the line from Abosokai. Let me add him to the list of what you have. Hello, George.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, good evening, George.
George.
Yeah, go ahead.
Opening also a discussion where many are going to na me musa question back. Because that's about so transport pass.
You.
I'm organizer for this.
Okay.
Officer Obi Ekanema Frabucheba. What in the bill of lading? Any invoices in Nama agent, so uncle Yimano. Let's say, dear agents, no, a mistake. Maybe a bacho. And your money of 50. No agent will be 20 because of pregnant. Now, but problem about what did I make?
Yet
you, to make a hand.
George, yeah, go ahead.
The program about a year agent in a mistake, and I say, also, man, they can't know any mistake.
Okay.
Yes, uncle to your penalty. Uncle, yes, uncle, I know on a photo or in the bill of living and it is near the Unamo.
Yatuase.
Come on.
Matuase. Okay.
Let them be a go for see. A binding yet. What can get the corner was what is this? What's that? The Slam.
Yo.
What the minister of the Hujuma? When you would, Mamma.
Yo, George. Okay. That bit, agent, the fault out of the clearance processes coming from the agent and the importer being asked to pay for it and all of that. If we can add it, but you were talking about the royalty.
Okay. Yeah. So royalties, we've adjusted royalties. That's a fact. The royalty is paid by service providers that we have contracted, like stevedoring companies, warehouse operators, shore handling, cleaning companies. They pay us royalty, and we have to increase that as well because, over time as the port authorities own costs of production and responsibilities increase, we need to look at all our revenue streams and adjust them as required. So we did that, but we just didn't do that out of the blue. We did engage all those concerned companies that are providing those services that we needed to increase the royalty. So, and we explained the rationale why we needed to increase. And okay. I think we've been quite modest with even the rate of increment.
Okay.
Number 4 is, the next one is Buankra or Akosombo and all that. Well, Buankra, the Buankra Inland Port is under the Ghana Shippers Authority.
Okay.
But we are interested in its progress because if it progresses and is able to attract business, there will be more business passing through our ports.
Okay.
There's quite some progress along that line to with the Shippers Authority. Of course, Akosombo, there's rail line being built from Tema to Akosombo, and there's a private company that wants to build a port on the Volta there to be able to collect cargo from Tema to that port by rail and then take it by barge to the north, then to continue by road. We are excited as a port to have that facility coming on board because anything that would make a port more attractive for business should be encouraged. Okay. And we are encouraging all that.
Before you move on to
yes.
that one, somebody has asked about Bupe Inland Port as well. He says, please, the Bupe Inland Port to facilitate multimodal transportation of goods to the neighboring countries. Please, when is it starting? If you know anything about it. I think I'm asking this one because of the inland port issue.
Bupe Inland Port, I don't think we have any project to build a dedicated port. But the concept is inside the proposal to look at developing commercial route along the Volta Lake.
Okay. Let me pick Boniface from Tamale. Hello, Boniface.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Boniface.
Mr. Juman, how are we?
We are good, thank you.
Yeah. In fact, I'm Boniface. Actually, calling from Tamale.
Sure.
I salute the DJ, Mr. Achanwe.
Yes.
In fact, he's doing a marvelous work at the GPHA.
Okay.
In fact, you see, this is what we need from the other Director General. So they should come and enlighten us. Really, what we have done, I really appreciate it. Because look, the bash outside there is not an easy thing. The way people are doing, the way people are misbehaving at the port, and at the end of the day, the government is doing bash. Really, it is. I don't know what to say. So we thank you very much for the wonderful thing you have come to do, and we pray that they should always come to educate like that. We thank you very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Boniface. DG, you may get back to that.
Okay. The next one is on handling charges.
Yes.
And saying that we are the highest, in the sub-region. That is not correct, because our own assessment of charges along the corridor, we are not the highest at all. Of course, this is more of a general thing. Overall, we are the highest, but we are not. Because don't forget, we are investing hundreds of millions of dollars into port infrastructure. We will not do that and at the same time increase tariffs to a point where we'll be so uncompetitive. Because if you do that, you can't get business coming for you to be able to pay for your investment. So we are watching that, and also interested in the economy's own growth to ensure that trading within our own economy is as competitive as possible.
Okay.
So that's not the case. But we are monitoring charges along the sub-region from time to time to ensure we are not the most expensive.
Okay.
Port security charge, I think it's more of the ISPS code charge that has just been introduced. And we've received the reports that from the shipping lines and how they are implementing that charge. Ideally, the argument is that the shipping line should pay and not the cargo owner.
And they will transfer, won't they?
They will still transfer. But this particular one that we just introduced is the cargo owner that pays. We are looking at that. I'm sure 1 year down the line of implementation, we will try and engage stakeholders properly and ensure that we revise the incidents.
This will be aside the security charge that's been taken by Maritime Authority that the shipping lines are also transferring?
Good. The shipping line, of course, Maritime Authority is taking security charge. We are looking at the ISPS code, the port facility and all the investment that go into it, the waterfront, the patrolling we do to ensure that ships and cargoes are as safe and secure as possible. That is an IMO instituted code that must be implemented, and there are standards for complying with the ISPS code. Apart from the IMO's own prescribed distance and what port authorities are doing, the U.S. Coast Guard also does annual audits of ISPS compliance at the level of ports. So in all that, someone has to pay. You have to invest, and that's why we should have started the ISPS charge many years back, but we didn't do that. We felt it is time for us to start it, and at least we need the stakeholders to really bear with us in this.
Okay.
The MPS and the partial unstuffing that they do, and also the transport charge. It's true that those were charges that Port Authority itself never endorsed, and as part of the revisions that were made, the directive that was issued was for MPS to cease charging those tariff items.
Has it been complied?
Now, we noticed the MPS hasn't complied, but they complied with one major one, which was the CD tariff that was indexed to the dollar, and it resulted in 200%, 300% increment. At least they complied with that one, which is the major one. Now the transport and the unstuffing one, they didn't just decide not to comply with the directive and kept quiet. They've written letters to the Port Authority trying to explain the justification, why they believe the Port Authority's directive should be taken a second look at, because they gave a number of arguments to back the reason why they want those particular fees to be maintained. We have also indicated to them that we are not prepared to allow those to stay because we don't find them as legitimate as possible. That is one. Two, we also think that they will increase cost of doing business. So there's a lot of engagement with the MP.
That means that essentially you are telling them to still stick to your directive.
It's just that we don't want to keep coming back into the main public and saying we said they should stop and then back and forth. We want to have a final solution before we come to the platform and inform stakeholders.
Okay, we're going to go to Kaswa. Seth is on the line, but this one says, Ion Port, please ask the Director General what's GPHA doing about the ICDs around the port, inland container depots, I'm sure he's talking about around the port, and is there going to be any percentage of containers going to come to these ICDs to have it working once they are closed down and laid workers off? Seth, good evening.
Evening. Okay, I have a few questions I would like to ask. I would like to find out, according to them, they said when a container with a vehicle.
Hello, Seth.
Me.
Hello, Seth. No, your line went bad. If you can repeat.
Okay. Hello. Okay. Is it now?
Yeah, it is better.
Okay. They said a car with a container with a car is supposed to come to GPA terminal, but normally when we go there and they will tell us it is at MPS and we have to pay for terminal charges. And now when we come back to Golden Jubilee, we have to pay for the terminal, handling terminal charges. So I don't know, maybe if you have explained further, because I just came in, I just saw the program and I decided to call to find out.
It's fine. That's not been touched on, so I'm sure the DG has noted. This one says, greetings. Please, I'd like to hide my identity. Feel free to hide your identity. Please, I want you to follow up on salaries of workers at the various ports. Can you believe that? Okay, so that's HR issue of some private companies at the ports. I'm sure that can be relayed better to the appropriate office. And we'll definitely get your feedback via WhatsApp again. The expansion of the Tema port will not be complete without the construction of the 4-lane dual carriageway from Community 3 to Motorway. Please, can the DG enlighten us when that road construction will start, please? I hear MPS will construct that road. Good job. Thanks for the construction of the bridge over the Chemu Lagoon and the AstroTurf at Manhia. Keep up the good job, Director General. But when are we getting our 4-lane motorway?
All right. So I think going by the lists, the issue of VAT, VAT on transit, I guess, that is where we got to. That we had already explained that we are dealing with customs to look at that. But then, and then the Schedule 4, the shore handling tariff and dollar indexation, we've talked about that. One of the questions was why I was justifying that VAT is part of government revenue and therefore more or less defending. That's not the case. I was just explaining that once they begin charging it and it goes into the revenue stream, for them to be withdrawn, it takes time. You need to have all the justification. But we have made our case to GRA. They've understood it and they are making effort to try and find a solution as quickly as possible. Now, there was this issue about under declaration, where you import maybe 10 items in your container, you give your papers to the freight forwarder, clearing agent, go and clear it for me, and then he goes and says there are 5 items. And then by the time customs open the container, they realize there are 10, they slap penalties, and the same freight forwarder comes to you and says, well, sorry, there's penalty, so customs says pay more, pay penalty. I think that is a challenge. We've had a lot of complaints coming to our marketing department about this, a few freight forwarders that are behaving this way. Just because they want to save money. They tell some of them even just tell the importer that, you know what, don't worry, we can say you brought only 5.
Wow.
And we'll pay less.
I see.
Then they go and try that. They are not lucky, it doesn't work. And then they come back asking this importer to pay even more than he would have originally paid. So I think it's important for importers themselves to also be smart. As much as possible, they shouldn't try to connive with any unscrupulous freight forwarder to shortchange the system by paying less. Let the appropriate duties be assessed. If you have genuine reasons to think that it's too high for you to pay, that is a different channel you use to talk to GRA. Present your case. If it is justifiable, they might consider some kind of concession for you. But if you try to connive with your freight forwarder and you are caught, naturally you suffer it.
Okay.
Where the freight forwarder sells the idea to you, it's better for you to say no than urging them on.
Okay.
But of course, we've also had reports where the importers rather push the freight forwarder to try and
manipulate the system.
doctor things. So it's all a question of, but the Shippers Authority is working very hard at that, providing a lot of sensitization and education. Our Port Authority's own marketing departments are working hard to try and do a lot of education. Now we are even moving into a situation where customs is supposed to help us have a list of credible freight forwarders that our marketing department can give out to all our customers that, listen, if you want to use Ghana's ports and you happen to be looking for a freight forwarder, choose from this list rather than just allow anybody walking to you and saying they can provide a service. So there's a collective effort in that direction.
DG,
yes?
Let me pick the last caller because I'm running out of time, and then we can finish up with the list that you have there. We have Ishmael from Tema. Hello, Ishmael. You should be my last caller.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, sir. I have two issues this evening. One is with regards to the paperless, the introduction of paperless system. And I think a broader consultation was done. Even during the pilot, and we realized that it was working perfectly. But this time, you go to port and you are clearing your container. There are so many hindrances that is coming up again. One is you have the examination officer. Apart from that, you are told that they have a tagging officer, and then they have another group of custom officers, which is called name and shame.
I see.
And you have to go through all these processes before you clear your container. I want to find out, does it mean that the officers themselves, from examination to preventive, they don't trust themselves, and that they bring in other officers, which they call tagging officers, and name and shame? At the end of the day, you have to walk around and waste time before your container gets released from the port.
Okay.
And this is worrying.
Okay.
The second one has to do with the charges of this handling charges from the terminal, GPHA and NPS and other terminals.
Yeah, I think
you go and they will just be told that they have increased terminal charges. For example, I was paying around 1,400 for a 40-footer container. The next day you are clearing the same container, the value has been escalated to 2,800. In fact, that day I have to shout, and even I was asked to see one of the managers.
Okay.
And she told me point blank that their hands are tied.
Okay.
And that is coming from management.
Okay.
And so I think that the importers should not be sliced with this kind of charges without any broader consultation. That it means that when these things happen, the importer will also not sit back.
Agreed. Ishmael, thank you. For the sake of time, I think the point is well made. Thank you very much. DG, you would take his paperless as well as the handling charge, because I think that has been asked before. But let me just add these comments from Cape 3 Points, and it's coming from our regular viewer. He's always watching this, and headmaster in Cape 3 Points. He says, good evening, GPHA has a lighthouse at Cape 3 Points, but they are not helping them in terms of infrastructures like school building, road, good drinking water and health facilities. From Charles Cromwell. Charles Cromwell is in Cape 3 Points, and the headmaster there watches this program and sends almost every week sends a text message to that effect. CSR in Cape 3 Point, where Lighthouse is located. This one says, good evening. I want to know what GPHA's vision is towards transshipment to other West African countries like Liberia, Sierra Leone, Gambia, etc. This is Tete Kubi in Tema. And Please do not forget to ask DG for his projections for 2020. This is coming from McLean Daily Graphic. He says, I really want to know. So we'll end with that one. The projections, definitely, that's going to be what will be the last part. But paperless and then the handling charges. If I haven't jumped your list.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think you had a questioner who is asking about the ICDs at the port.
Yes.
And the ICDs, as part of the Terminal 3 contract, all containers were supposed to be handled within the Terminal 3 facility, except the Golden Jubilee and the TBT, which handles dangerous cargo containers. So all the other satellite and ICDs that we've had were supposed to close down. That is it. And I think we took time since last year to provide a lot of sensitization to all these ICDs. That is contractually what we are supposed to experience going forward. And they understood that, and we've moved forward from that side.
Okay.
The 4-lane road is a project that is ongoing. Currently, it's not MPS that is building it. It's a separate consortium that is going to invest in that road facility. Okay. There's a lot of work that is going on between Transport, Roads and Highways Ministry to get that project up and running. Hopefully in the course of this year,
okay,
we'll see some commencement of that project. The paperless, I think is good. This particular concern has come up. It will be thoroughly investigated to see the multiplicity of customs issues that they are talking about. And then we'll try together to see how we can resolve. Otherwise, from the assessment, the paperless has actually achieved quite significant results. But of course, it's not a perfect system. There are still a lot of things to deal with, which we are going to work together on. The handling charges, yes. I think we talked about the first week of implementation from 2nd December and the challenges that came from the Schedule 4, the CD tariff that had to be indexed to the dollar. And it resulted in 100%, 200%, and the rest. And that is what we managed to resolve by withdrawing that and only increasing the shore handling city tariff by just about 40%. So the concern raised by this particular caller happened to many during the first week, on the 2nd of December when we started implementation. Cape 3 points, yes. In fact, right now, the road even linking to Cape 3 points is a major concern for CSR that we are looking at. So
okay,
that is in the project. Transshipment, of course. Terminal 3 is built to try and attract a lot of transshipment so that all cargoes coming to this sub-region will come to our port and then move up and be distributed. So there's a conscious effort to promote transshipment.
Okay.
2020, we are looking forward to doing better. Because Terminal 3 is going to attract more business in 2020. And we think that our ports themselves are well geared. Takrady is going to come up, oil services, we should do much, much better than previous years.
Okay. And the paperless, when we come, I will let you end on paperless finally, because I've seen another message coming from someone that he also wants to remain anonymous. Now, there are quite a number of news items running around the world, including piracy left, right, center. Let's pick them, including the Bank of Ghana exchange rates that you need to know to clear your goods out of the port, and then we'll come back and wrap up.
Okay.
While boarding the U.S.-flagged container ship Maersk Kensington in the early morning of December 30, 2019. The ship, part of Maersk Line's fleet, arrived from Algeciras, Spain, to the port of New York and New Jersey when the incident occurred. Based on the initial reports, the veteran pilot fell from an accommodation, later sustaining fatal injuries. The U.S. Coast Guard dispatched units from the New York Fire Department and New York Police Department, Harbor Police, to the spot. The Coast Guard has launched an investigation into the circumstance surrounding the fall. Hyundai Samho Heavy Industries has revealed in an exchange filing that it has secured a contract for the construction of 2 LPG carriers from an unnamed European client. Under the terms of the $166 million contract, the duo is set for delivery by the end of April 2022. In a separate announcement, Hyundai Samo said that it had won a contract for the construction and installation of a container crane with the Port of Busan Corporation worth $113 million. The contracts come just days after Hyundai Samo revealed an order for the construction of an LNG carrier and a very large crude oil carrier booked by undisclosed Asian clients. Armed pirates abducted 8 crew members of the Greek-flagged tanker Happy Lady while the vessel was anchored around 2 nautical miles off the port of Limbo in Cameroon. The kidnapped crew members include 5 Greek nationals, 2 Filipinos, and 1 Ukrainian sailor. As informed, 1 Greek national was injured in the incident. However, the extent of his injuries was not disclosed. There were 28 crew members on board the tanker when the incident took place. The Greek Coast Guard said that relevant authorities have been informed of the incident and that activities were underway to monitor the situation. The latest incident in the Gulf of Guinea comes just a week after 2 personnel were taken from a container vessel renovation at the Douala anchorage on December 22, 2019. South Korean shipbuilder Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering has revealed in a stock exchange filing that it has secured an order for 6 container ships. DSME said the order placed by an undisclosed owner from Africa is worth $711 million. The container ships are scheduled for delivery by the end of October 2022. The latest order brings DSME's order tally to 39 vessels, including 10 LNG carriers, 10 super crude oil carriers, 11 container ships, 2 super LPG carriers, 5 submarines, and 1 offshore plant.
Okay, so as we're wrapping up, still with the Director General, Ghana Port and Harbours Authority, Mr. Lubije. So, 2020, expectations from stakeholders, from the port community, also from clients, what should it be?
Well, the 2020, the year itself is a year of, excellence, isn't it? 20 over 20. 20 over 20, yes. So
that's a good one.
So we are expecting extraordinary performance in every industry that works with the port. In the economy of Ghana itself, we are looking forward to a 2020 score. And once the ports feed on the economy generates the business. It means that the ports themselves should also have a 2020 score. And the same wish to every other operator within the port industry who is providing a service, generating cargo, providing any form of facilitation. We expect 2020 score. That next year by this time, each and every operator within the port community and the economy of Ghana itself will be presenting those results of excellence. In so doing, of course, it doesn't mean that we should just take excitement in the fact that it's a year of 2020. And therefore, we should rest on our OS. We need to work hard. We need to work very, very hard, because what it means is that if when God blesses us and the volumes grow, we must be prepared to handle them efficiently. And that is the wish of the Port Authority for everybody, for ourselves, and for the economy of Ghana and every other stakeholder. We are looking forward to collaborating better than we've done, because that is the only way we can improve on the results we have achieved. And we are open as a Port Authority. Our doors are always open as the landlord to facilitate as much as possible to make things much, much easier for people to do business within our ports. Our doors are open, not just as experts who know it all, but open to also pick a lot of suggestions from those who are helping us and working with us, port users, port operators alike, so that together we can propel the maritime sector to play the leading role as the gateway to the country's economy.
We appreciate your time, Director General. Thank you very much for coming. So that's the Director General, Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, joining us to take a look at the year 2019 and also getting into 2020 to some of the things that we expect. Thanks a lot for watching the program. See you same time next week.